The city of Leosville never slept. It was a place where dreams were either made or crushed, where power and money ruled, and where people fought every day to survive. In the heart of the city stood Johnson Towers, a sleek, glass-walled skyscraper that reflected the bright lights of Leosville. It belonged to Lawrence Johnson, the most powerful real estate mogul in the city. He was known for his sharp business mind, his cold heart, and his belief that love was nothing but a distraction. Lawrence had everything: wealth, power, and respect. But one thing he had never wanted was emotional attachment. To him, relationships were weak spots, and he had no patience for them. On the other side of town, in a much smaller office, Joy Daniels was busy sketching designs for a new project. She had always dreamed of owning her own interior design company, but for now, she worked for someone else. It was not easy, but she was determined to make a name for herself. Joy was nothing like Lawrence. Where he was cold, she was warm. Where he believed in control, she believed in fate. She had been hurt before, but she still believed in love. That night, her boss had invited her to a high-profile business event. It was her first time attending such a grand gathering, and she wanted to make a good impression. She wore a simple but elegant black dress, her natural beauty shining through without effort. The business event was held at the Grand Royal Hotel, one of the most luxurious places in the city. The hall was filled with men in expensive suits, women in shimmering gowns, and the air carried the scent of money and power. Joy felt out of place. She was not from this world of billionaires and tycoons, but she reminded herself that she belonged anywhere her dreams took her. That was when she saw him, Lawrence Johnson. Tall, broad-shouldered, and impossibly handsome in his tailored suit, he had a presence that made everyone turn. But his eyes were cold, unreadable, like a man who carried the world on his shoulders, but never let anyone close enough to share the weight. Joy had always admired him. For years she had followed his success, reading about him in business magazines, watching his interviews, dreaming of one day shaking his hand. She had told herself that if she ever met him, she would act professional, be composed, and impress him with her knowledge. But when their eyes met across the crowded hall, all of that disappeared. It was just a glance at first. But then, Lawrence approached. She had no idea why the Lawrence Johnson was talking to her. Maybe he was just being polite. Maybe he was bored. But for some reason, the most powerful man in the room was paying attention to her. He asked about her work. She spoke with passion about interior design, about how spaces could tell stories, about how she wanted to create something lasting. He listened, but his eyes were a little hazy, his words slightly slurred. It was clear he had been drinking. One drink led to another. One conversation led to laughter, and before they knew it, they were alone in a hotel suite upstairs. Joy should have walked away. She knew he was drunk. She knew she should have left him in his room and gone home. But this was Lawrence Johnson, the man she had admired for years, the man she had dreamed about. And when he pulled her close, whispering words she knew he wouldn't even remember in the morning, she forgot everything. Her home training, her morals, her sense of caution. She willingly gave him her virginity. She wanted to believe it meant something, that maybe, just maybe, he saw her as different. But deep inside, a small voice told her this was a mistake. The sunlight creeping through the curtains felt harsh. Joy turned in bed, expecting to see Lawrence next to her, but the space was empty. He was gone. She sat up, her heart pounding. Maybe he had just stepped out. Maybe he would come back. But then her eyes fell on 3 thick bundles of cash on the nightstand. Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the money, her hands shaking. And then it hit her. He thought she was just a woman who had been arranged for his pleasure. Tears filled her eyes as the truth sank in. He probably wouldn't even remember her. To him, she wasn't Joy Daniels. She wasn't the young woman who had admired him, who had given him something priceless. She was just another woman in his bed, a forgettable night, a cheap fling. Joy clutched the sheets, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. She felt like a fool, like a cheap hoe. She had never felt so humiliated in her life. and as she got dressed, she promised herself she would never make that mistake again. Little did she know, that night had left her with something far more lasting than just a broken heart. Days turned into weeks, but Joy couldn't forget that night. Not because of the pain, not because of the humiliation, but because something was changing inside her. She had been feeling strange, tired all the time, her appetite shifting, and waves of nausea hitting her unexpectedly. At first, she thought it was stress. But when she missed her period, a cold fear crept into her heart. One evening, after work, she bought a pregnancy test. She sat on the tiny bathroom floor of her apartment, staring at the small white stick in her trembling hands. Her heart pounded as she waited for the result, each second feeling like an eternity. And then, 2 bold pink lines. Positive. Joy froze. Her breath caught in her throat, and for a moment she thought she might pass out. She was pregnant. She pressed a hand to her stomach, trying to make sense of it. A life was growing inside her. Lawrence Johnson's child. Tears welled in her eyes. What was she going to do? For the next few days, Joy couldn't sleep. Her mind kept racing with one question. Should she tell him? She didn't even have his phone number. The only way to reach him was through his company, Johnson Group. After struggling with the decision, she finally gathered the courage to go to his office. The Johnson Group building in Leosville was a towering glass structure that seemed to touch the sky. Inside, everything was sleek and polished, filled with expensive suits and the sound of heels clicking on marble floors. Joy felt small. She approached the front desk, her hands clenched into fists. "I need to see Mr. Lawrence Johnson," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The receptionist, a tall woman with a tight bun and an even tighter expression, gave her a disbelieving look. "Do you have an appointment?" Joy hesitated. "No, but it's important. Please, I just need a few minutes." The receptionist sighed loudly, tapping on her keyboard. "Mr. Johnson doesn't meet people without an appointment. If you'd like to book one, the earliest available date is 3 months from now." Joy's heart sank. 3 months? By then, she would already be showing. "There's no way to see him sooner?" she asked, desperate. The woman gave her a sharp look. "Ma'am, Mr. Johnson is not someone you can just walk in and see. If you don't have an appointment, I suggest you leave." Joy stared at her, feeling a lump form in her throat. So this was how it was. She had been nothing to him that night, and now she couldn't even get 5 minutes of his time. She turned away slowly, feeling defeated. But as she reached the door, another thought hit her. Even if she did manage to tell Lawrence, what would he think? That she was trying to trap him, that she wanted his money. Joy's stomach twisted. She had already seen what he thought of women like her. He left her money on the nightstand like she was a prostitute. He would never believe she wasn't trying to use this pregnancy against him. And honestly, she didn't want anything from him. She didn't need his money. She didn't need his name. She would raise this baby on her own. Taking a deep breath, Joy walked out of Johnson Group, her decision made. She would never reach out to him again. He would never know about this child. She would be both mother and father. She didn't need him. She never had. And so Joy disappeared from Lawrence's world, taking their child with her. 5 years later, the streets of Leosville bustled with life, filled with the sound of honking cars, people bargaining in open-air markets, and the distant hum of construction sites. The city had grown just as Noah had. At just 5 years old, Noah Daniels was a ball of energy. His bright eyes shone with curiosity and his laughter was contagious. He was the reason Joy Daniels kept pushing forward every single day. She had worked hard over the years, climbing her way up in the interior design industry. Though she didn't have her own company yet, she had made a name for herself. Clients admired her work, and she was proud that she had built a stable life for Noah without anyone's help. She didn't need Lawrence Johnson. She had erased him from her life. But fate had other plans. It was a warm afternoon, and Joy had promised Noah a trip to Royal Crest Mall, one of the most luxurious shopping centers in Leosville. The mall was owned by none other than Johnson Group, but Joy didn't think much of that. She had long stopped worrying about Lawrence crossing paths with her. He probably wouldn't even remember her, so what were the chances? Noah ran ahead excitedly, tugging on Joy's hand as they passed through the mall's food court. "Mommy, can I have ice cream?" he asked, his big brown eyes filled with hope. Joy smiled. Okay, just one scoop." She led him to a small ice cream stand, waiting as the vendor scooped vanilla into a cup. Noah grinned, happily digging in as they continued walking. It was supposed to be just another normal day. Until she heard a voice. A voice that made her entire body freeze. Across the mall, standing in front of a row of luxury stores, Lawrence Johnson stood with a group of men in suits. He was doing his routine property inspection, something he rarely had time for, but today he had decided to visit the mall personally with his management staff. As he listened to his assistant discuss sales figures, his gaze casually swept across the food court. And then he saw the child. A small boy. Dark curly hair, a sharp jawline, a face that looked almost exactly like his own. Lawrence stopped breathing. The resemblance was too strong to ignore. His heart pounded as he watched the boy take a bite of his ice cream, laughing as his mother wiped a smudge off his cheek. And then, his eyes shifted to the woman holding the boy's hand. Something flickered in his mind, a vague sense of familiarity, but he couldn't place her. Where had he seen her before? Who was she? And why did her son look exactly like him? Before he knew what he was doing, Lawrence started walking toward them. Joy was laughing at something Noah had said when she felt a presence behind her. A dark, powerful presence. She turned, and her heart dropped. Standing just a few feet away was Lawrence Johnson. Even after 5 years, he still had the same sharp, commanding aura. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, he looked as powerful as ever. But his eyes, those piercing, dark eyes, were staring directly at Noah. Joy's grip tightened around her son's hand. Lawrence's voice was calm but firm. "Whose child is this?" Joy's heart raced. She swallowed, keeping her face neutral. "Why does that matter to you, sir?" Lawrence took a step closer. "Because he looks exactly like me." His tone was cold, laced with suspicion. Joy forced herself to stay calm. She had prepared for this moment. She met his gaze and said firmly, "Mr. Johnson, you can't go around accusing people of having your child just because you're rich and powerful. Not every boy in this city belongs to you." A flicker of something, anger, doubt, crossed Lawrence's face, but he wasn't convinced. Lawrence glanced at Noah again. The resemblance was too strong. Even the way the boy furrowed his brows when he concentrated looked exactly like him. Joy could feel her pulse hammering in her ears. She needed to end this now. "Come on, Noah," she said quickly, taking her son's hand. "We're leaving." Without looking back, she walked away, her legs shaking with every step, but she should have known. Lawrence never let things go, and this time was no different. As Joy disappeared into the crowd, Lawrence turned to his assistant Daniel. "Find out everything about that woman." His voice was sharp, leaving no room for questions. Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir." "And get a paternity test." Daniel hesitated. "Sir, how? The woman refused to talk to you." Lawrence's jaw clenched. "She may have refused, but the boy won't. Figure it out." His assistant nodded and hurried off. Lawrence stood there for a moment, staring at the spot where Joy had just been. If what he suspected was true, if that boy was really his, then that woman had kept his child from him for 5 years. And that he would never forgive. The next morning, Joy Daniels sat at her desk, staring blankly at the sketches in front of her. She was supposed to be working on a new design for a client, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about what had happened yesterday. Lawrence had forgotten her. Even after spending the night together, after taking something so precious from her, he had looked at her like a stranger. Joy let out a small, bitter laugh. Of course he had. To him, she was just another woman he had a one-night stand with, a woman who meant nothing. She ran a hand through her hair, trying to push down the ache in her heart. But even if he had forgotten her, at least she had Noah. Noah was her greatest blessing. She had raised him alone, given him everything she could, and never once regretted keeping him. No matter what, she wouldn't let Lawrence take him away. She was still lost in thought when she heard a knock on her office door. "Come in," she called, shaking off her emotions. The door swung open, and a tall, well-dressed man stepped inside. At first, Joy didn't recognize him, but then, his smile. Kelvin Blake. She hadn't seen him since university, but she recognized his face instantly. "Joy Daniels?" he said, a slow smile spreading across his lips. "Wow, it's really you." Joy blinked in surprise. "Kelvin? It's been years," he said, stepping forward. "I wasn't sure if it was you at first, but wow, you look amazing. I remember you from back in school. You were always the best at anything creative." Joy smiled, the unexpected reunion momentarily lifting her mood. "And you were always the smartest in class?" Kelvin chuckled. "I like to think I still am." He glanced around her office. "So, this is your firm?" Joy sighed. "Not yet. I still work for someone, but one day I'll have my own." Kelvin nodded. "Well, maybe I can be your first big client." Joy raised an eyebrow. "You're looking for an interior designer?" "Yes," he said, pulling out a business card and handing it to her. "I recently bought a new office space. I need someone to design it, and I remembered your name from school. Thought I'd look you up." Joy took the card and glanced at it. Kelvin Blake, senior attorney, Blake Partners Law Firm. Her eyes widened slightly. Blake and Partners. She knew that name. His family owned several successful businesses in Layosville, and now he was a big-shot lawyer. She looked back up at him, impressed. "So you became a lawyer after all?" "Yeah," Kelvin said with a shrug. "It's a tough job, but I love it." He leaned against the desk. "And you? How's life been treating you?" Joy hesitated for a moment before smiling. "It's been a journey, but I'm managing." Kelvin studied her for a moment, as if sensing there was more to her story, but he didn't push. "Well," he said, "let's work together. I'll send you the details and we can discuss the design. And if you ever need legal help," he gestured to the card in her hand, "you know where to find me." Joy nodded, feeling a little lighter. "Thank you, Kelvin. I appreciate it." As he walked out, she couldn't shake the feeling that fate had brought him back into her life for a reason. At that same moment, Lawrence Johnson sat in his office, gripping the paternity test results in his hands. 99.9% match. Noah was his. His jaw clenched as he threw the papers on his desk. His assistant, Daniel, stood in front of him, watching cautiously. "Sir," Daniel said carefully, "we also found out more about the woman. Her name is Joy Daniels. She works as an interior designer at a mid-level firm in Layosville. She lives in a modest apartment with the boy, no known husband or partner." Lawrence barely heard him. His mind was spinning. For 5 years, this woman had kept his son from him. 5 years. She had carried his child, given birth and raised him, without ever telling him. Did she really think she could hide this forever? His eyes darkened. Joy had stolen his son from him, and he wasn't going to let her get away with it. "Arrange a meeting," he said coldly. "I want to talk to her. Now." Later that evening, Joy was locking up her office when she turned and saw him. Lawrence. Standing beside a sleek black car, his hands tucked into his pockets. Her stomach twisted. He had found her. She forced herself to stay calm as she walked toward him. "What do you want, Mr. Johnson?" Lawrence's jaw tightened. "We need to talk. Now." Joy hesitated. She feared he might have found out the truth she had tried to hide for 5 years, but she knew she had no choice. She nodded stiffly and followed him into a private conference room inside the building. The moment the door closed, Lawrence turned on her. "How dare you keep my son from me?" His voice was low, but there was pure fury behind it. Joy swallowed hard. I didn't think you'd want to know." Lawrence let out a sharp laugh, but there was no humor in it. "Oh, so you decided for me. You took my right away. You stole my child, Joy." Tears burned behind her eyes. "I didn't steal him. He is my son too. I protected him." "From me?" Lawrence scoffed. "You had no right." Joy took a shaky breath. "Please, Lawrence, Noah is happy. He has everything he needs." "Does he?" Lawrence stepped closer, his gaze like fire. "You're just a single mother with a middle-class job. What kind of life can you give him?" Joy flinched at his words. "Noah belongs with me," Lawrence said, his voice firm. "I have the resources to give him a better future. He should be living in comfort, not—" He gestured dismissively. "In a rented apartment with a struggling mother." Joy felt like she had been slapped. She begged, "Please don't take him away from me. He's all I have." But Lawrence was unmoved. "This is not up for discussion," he said coldly. "I'll see you in court." That night, Joy sat in her apartment, holding Noah tightly. Tears streamed down her face. She was going to lose him. She didn't have money. She could go up against Lawrence Johnson. She couldn't afford high-end lawyers, but she wouldn't give up. And then, she remembered the card Kelvin had given her. Kelvin. A lawyer. A powerful one. With shaking hands, she picked up her phone and dialed his number. She prayed he would help her. Because if she lost this battle, she would lose her son forever. Joy sat in her small living room, clutching her phone as she waited for Kelvin to pick up. She had no other option. If she didn't fight back, she would lose Noah. After 3 rings, a familiar deep voice answered. Kelvin Blake speaking. Joy swallowed hard, trying to steady her voice. "Kelvin, it's Joy." There was a brief pause. "Joy, hey, what's wrong?" The concern in his voice made her throat tighten. How was she supposed to say it? Taking a shaky breath, she forced herself to speak. "It's about my son, Noah. His father, Lawrence Johnson, just found out about him. And now he's taking me to court to get full custody." There was silence on the line for a few seconds. Then Kelvin's voice came, firm and clear. "Where are you?" "At home," Joy whispered. "Send me the address. I'm coming over." 30 minutes later, Kelvin sat across from her in the living room. "Joy," he said gently, "I need you to tell me everything." And so she did. She told him about how she had met Lawrence, how he had never remembered her, how she had raised Noah alone, and how he now wanted to take Noah away from her because he thought she couldn't give him a good life. Kelvin listened without judgment, his expression unreadable. When she finished, her hands were shaking. "Kelvin, I can't lose him. Noah is my everything." Kelvin leaned forward and placed a hand on hers. His grip was warm and steady. "Joy, listen to me. You're not going to lose him. I will fight for you. I will make sure you keep your son." Tears welled in her eyes. "But Lawrence is powerful. He has money, Kelvin cut her off, his voice firm. "And I have the law. Money doesn't always win in court. You're Noah's mother. You've raised him for 5 years. No judge will just take him away without a fight." Joy felt a wave of relief rush over her. Kelvin wasn't just a lawyer. He was a friend. "Thank you," she whispered. Kelvin squeezed her hand reassuringly. "We're in this together." Meanwhile, in his grand penthouse apartment, Lawrence Johnson sat with his legal team. The paternity test had confirmed what he already knew. Now, he was ready to do whatever it took to claim his son. His lawyer, Mr. Jacobs, sat across from him, flipping through some documents. "Mr. Johnson, with your wealth and influence, we have a strong case. The court will see that Noah will have a better life with you." Lawrence leaned back in his chair, his face unreadable. "I want no mistakes, no loopholes. I don't want Joy Daniels winning this case." His lawyer nodded. "Understood. We'll argue that she hid the child from you for years, denying you your rights as a father. That shows irresponsibility. Lawrence's jaw clenched. Exactly. He didn't hate Joy, but he hated that she had made such a huge decision without him. Noah was his son, and he was going to take him back. 2 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. Joy sat beside Kelvin, her heart pounding as she watched Lawrence walk in, his presence commanding as always. He didn't even look at her. The case was intense from the start. Lawrence's lawyers argued that Joy had denied him his parental rights, that Noah deserved a better life, that Lawrence could provide more opportunities. Kelvin, calm and confident, fought back. She didn't hide Noah out of malice, he told the court. She was a young woman abandoned after a mistake. She has raised Noah with love, care, and stability, and no amount of money can replace a mother's love. The judge listened carefully. After heated arguments, the decision was made. Lawrence would be allowed supervised visits with Noah while the court continued to review the case. Joy's heart ached. She didn't want Noah away from her at all, but she had no choice. When she told Noah later that evening, his small face crumpled. "I don't want to go, Mommy," he cried. "I want to stay with you." Joy hugged him tightly, blinking back her own tears. "Noah, baby, you have to spend some time with him, but it's okay. Mommy will always be here for you." She kissed his forehead, trying to stay strong for him, even though inside she was breaking. The first time Noah was brought to Lawrence's mansion, the little boy looked around nervously. Everything was too big, too cold. Lawrence's staff tried to make him feel at home, but Noah didn't talk much. He missed his mother. Lawrence, who had always been in control, suddenly felt lost. How was he supposed to talk to a child? At dinner, Noah barely ate. When Lawrence tried to talk to him, he got one-word answers. For the first time, Lawrence felt something unfamiliar: helplessness. That night, as he watched Noah sleep, he wondered if he was making a mistake. But then, something changed. Over time, Lawrence slowly began to understand his son. One day he found Noah in the study, drawing in a notebook. "What are you doing?" he asked. Noah hesitated before showing him the picture: a house, a sun, and 2 stick figures. Lawrence frowned. "Who's this?" Noah's small voice was soft. "Me and Mommy." Something tugged at Lawrence's chest. For the first time, he realized just how much Noah loved Joy. He felt a strange pang of guilt. The next day, he made an effort. He asked Noah what his favorite cartoon was. He bought coloring books and sat beside him while he colored. At first, Noah didn't respond much. But slowly, he started to warm up. One evening, Lawrence walked into the playroom and found Noah asleep on the couch, clutching a toy car. Without thinking, Lawrence picked him up and carried him to bed. As he tucked the boy under the covers, something inside him shifted. For years, he had never cared about anything except business. But now he had a son. And he was beginning to care. Joy sat in her living room, watching the raindrops slide down the window pane. It had been weeks since the custody battle started, and things were changing. Noah was spending more time with Lawrence, and even though he always came home to her, Joy could feel it. He was growing closer to his father. She noticed it in the way he talked about Lawrence now. "Daddy got me a new toy today. Daddy showed me his office. It's so big, Mommy. Daddy says I can ride in his big car next time." Joy smiled whenever he spoke, but deep down, it hurt. She had been Noah's world for 5 years. She had been the one who held him when he cried, who fed him, who stayed up with him when he was sick. And now she felt she was being replaced. She wasn't sure how to feel about it. But soon something happened that changed everything. It started one evening at Lawrence's mansion. Noah had been unusually quiet that day, not as energetic as he usually was. He had refused to eat much at dinner, and by the time night fell, his forehead was burning with fever. Lawrence noticed immediately. He called his family doctor, who arrived quickly and examined Noah. "It's just a viral fever," the doctor assured him. "Give him some rest, plenty of fluids, and he'll be fine." But even after the doctor left, Noah wouldn't stop crying. Lawrence sat beside him on the bed, trying to comfort him. "It's okay, buddy. You're going to be fine." But Noah shook his head, sobbing. I want my mommy." Lawrence's heart tightened. For the first time, he realized that he wasn't enough. Even with all his money, his power, his mansion, he couldn't replace Joy. And so he did something he never thought he would. He picked up his phone and called her. Joy was getting ready for bed when her phone rang. She frowned when she saw Lawrence's name. Her heart pounded as she answered. "Hello." His voice was calm, but there was an urgency to it. "Noah's sick. He has a fever. He's asking for you. He won't let the nannies near him." Joy didn't hesitate. "I'm coming." She arrived at Lawrence's mansion within minutes, rushing past the house staff and heading straight to Noah's room. The moment she stepped inside, Noah's small arms reached for her. "Mommy," he whimpered, his face pale. Joy's heart broke. She rushed to his bedside, pulling him into her arms. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." She pressed a cool cloth to his forehead, whispered soothing words in his ear, and hummed the lullaby she always sang to him when he was a baby. Slowly, his breathing evened out, his little body relaxing in her embrace. Lawrence watched silently from the doorway. For the first time, he truly saw what kind of mother Joy was. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't irresponsible. She was everything Noah needed. And suddenly he began to doubt himself. Joy stayed up all night by Noah's side, checking his temperature, making sure he drank enough water, wiping his forehead with a damp cloth. Lawrence stayed in the room too, watching her. In the quiet of the night, something shifted between them. She wasn't the manipulative woman he had once thought she was, and she wasn't a gold digger. She was just a mother who loved their son more than anything. And for the first time since the battle started, Lawrence questioned whether he was doing the right thing. Did Noah really need to be taken away from her? Was money and power more important than the love and care Joy gave him? When morning came, Noah's fever had gone down, and Lawrence had made a decision. He was going to drop the case. The next day, Lawrence invited Joy to talk. She sat across from him in his grand office, tense and unsure of what he was about to say. Then, the words she never expected. "I'm withdrawing the lawsuit." Joy's eyes widened in shock. "What?" Lawrence leaned forward, his voice softer than she had ever heard it before. "Noah needs both of us. I was wrong to try and take him away from you." Joy felt tears prick her eyes. For so long she had been fighting, afraid of losing her son. But now, Lawrence was giving up the battle. Not because he didn't want Noah, but because he had realized what was truly best for him. She let out a shaky breath. "Thank you, Lawrence." For the first time in 5 years, they smiled at each other, not as enemies, but as parents. But not everyone was happy about this new understanding. Lawrence's mother, Madam Lydia Johnson, was furious when she heard what had happened. "You're dropping the case?" she demanded, sitting in her lavish living room. "Lawrence, what are you thinking?" Lawrence sighed. "Mother, I made the right choice. Noah needs both parents in his life." Madam Lydia scoffed. "Noah needs a stable home, a real family, and that woman, that low-class girl, is not fit to be a part of it." Lawrence's eyes darkened. "Joy is his mother. She's done an incredible job raising him." Madam Lydia waved a hand dismissively. "She is nothing, a single mother with no wealth, no status. If you must be involved in Noah's life, at least give him a proper mother. Marry someone suitable." Lawrence exhaled sharply, already knowing where this was going. "You mean Vanessa?" Madam Lydia smiled. "Yes, Vanessa comes from a respectable family. She has the connections, the class, and the beauty. She's perfect for you." Lawrence's face hardened. "Mother, Vanessa and I broke up a long time ago." "Then fix it," Madam Lydia snapped. "It's not too late." Lawrence stood up. "I'm not marrying Vanessa." "Then who are you marrying?" Madam Lydia challenged. Lawrence's jaw clenched. He didn't have an answer. At least, not yet. and with that, he walked out. The past few days had been surreal for Joy. The man she once feared would take her son away was now the same man she was beginning to trust again. She and Lawrence had been spending more time together, not just as co-parents, but as two people who shared a past and an undeniable connection. Noah was happier than ever, and Joy felt something inside her softening. One evening, Joy was at Lawrence's house waiting for Noah to finish his dinner. She sat on the balcony, enjoying the cool evening air when she heard footsteps behind her. Lawrence. He leaned against the railing beside her, his gaze on the city lights. "It's peaceful here," Joy said softly. Lawrence nodded. "I never noticed before." Joy turned to him, surprised. "What do you mean?" He let out a small chuckle. "Before Noah, before you, I was too busy chasing money to care about things like this." Joy smiled, looking down. "You've changed, Lawrence." Lawrence studied her face, his expression unreadable. "Maybe you're the one who changed me." Joy's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly they were close. Too close. The air between them shifted. Lawrence reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Joy," he whispered. She didn't pull away. And then he kissed her. Soft, slow, full of unspoken emotions. Joy's entire body tingled as she melted into the kiss. For the first time in years, she felt something she had long buried. But then, reality hit. She pulled away quickly, her cheeks burning. I should go," she stammered, stepping back. Lawrence looked at her, slightly dazed. "Joy." But she didn't let him finish. She turned and hurried inside, feeling a mix of emotions she wasn't ready to face. The next morning, Joy sat in her office, still thinking about the kiss. Had she made a mistake? Did Lawrence really feel something for her? Or was this just temporary? Her thoughts were interrupted when Kelvin walked in. She smiled. "Kelvin, what brings you here?" Kelvin sat down, looking at her intently. "I heard you won." Joy's smile widened. "Yes, Lawrence dropped the lawsuit. Noah gets to have both of us in his life." "I'm happy for you, Joy," Kelvin said, but his voice sounded different. "Serious." She frowned slightly. "Kelvin, is something wrong?" He exhaled deeply, rubbing his hands together before looking at her. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have said a long time ago." Joy's heart skipped a beat. "I have feelings for you, Joy," he said simply. "I've had them for a long time." Joy's breath caught. Kelvin looked at her, his expression vulnerable. "I've watched you struggle, fight, and grow into this incredible woman, and I wanted to tell you before it's too late." Joy felt her stomach twist. Kelvin was amazing. Kind, loyal, supportive. But she didn't love him. Not in that way. She swallowed hard, reaching out to take his hand. "Kelvin," she said softly, "I appreciate you more than I can ever say. You've been there for me when I had no one. You fought for me. You've stood by me." Kelvin looked at her hopefully. "But I don't feel the same way," she continued gently. "I see you as a dear friend, someone I trust. But I can't give you more than that." A flicker of sadness crossed Kelvin's face, but he nodded. "I understand." Joy squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry, Kelvin. I never meant to hurt you." He forced a small smile. "Don't apologize for your feelings, Joy." She felt her chest tighten. "Are we still okay?" Kelvin let out a breath before giving her a real smile. "Of course. You're stuck with me." Joy laughed softly, relieved. Even though her heart belonged elsewhere, she was grateful for Kelvin, because no matter what, he would always be in her corner. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Vanessa Williams was lounging on a private beach, sipping on a cocktail. She had been enjoying a luxurious vacation in the Maldives, completely unaware of what was happening back home. Until her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Madam Lydia Johnson. "Aunt Lydia, to what do I owe this surprise?" Madam Lydia's voice was sharp. "I hope you're enjoying yourself, Vanessa. Because while you've been sunbathing, a materialistic woman has been getting close to Lawrence. Vanessa sat up instantly. What? I knew I should have never let you two break up, Madame Lydia hissed. You were supposed to be his wife. Vanessa's fingers tightened around her glass. Lawrence had moved on, with some woman. Vanessa's eyes darkened. She had waited too long for a second chance with Lawrence. She wasn't about to let some nobody take her place. What do you want me to do? She asked. Madame Lydia's voice was cold. Come back and make sure that woman disappears from his life. A slow, dangerous smile curled on Vanessa's lips. Consider it done. The golden city lights of Leosville stretched beneath Vanessa Williams as her private jet touched down. She hadn't planned to return so soon. But after Madame Lydia's call, she knew she had to. She stepped off the jet, dressed in a designer outfit, her expensive sunglasses hiding her narrowed eyes. She wasn't just back to visit. She was back to win. The next day, Vanessa strode into Johnson Group headquarters, walking past the receptionist without stopping. Lawrence's assistant, Daniel, barely had time to react before she pushed open Lawrence's office doors. Lawrence looked up, his brows furrowing. Vanessa? She smiled sweetly. Miss me? Lawrence sighed, setting his pen down. What are you doing here? Vanessa walked closer, sitting across from him. I heard you've been busy. I have, Lawrence said coolly. Vanessa tilted her head. Too busy with that woman? What's her name again? Oh, right, that woman. Lawrence's jaw tightened. Tell me, Lawrence, Vanessa continued smoothly. Have you ever stopped to think about why she hid Noah from you all these years? Lawrence's eyes darkened. I know why. She thought I wouldn't care. And considering the way I treated her back then, I don't blame her. Vanessa gave him a mocking look. Or maybe she knew exactly what she was doing. Maybe she wanted to control the situation, to trap you. Lawrence's patience thinned. Enough, Vanessa. She leaned forward. Lawrence, you're too smart to fall for this. A woman like her, a struggling single mother, suddenly finding out she has the heir to the Johnson empire? You think she wasn't planning her next move? Lawrence's temper flared. Joy is an orphan, and life has been hard on her, yet she never once asked me for anything, he said sharply. Not money, not status, not even help. Vanessa blinked. She hadn't expected him to defend Joy. She raised Noah alone, Lawrence continued, and I'm starting to see that she did an incredible job. Vanessa clenched her fists. This wasn't working. Lawrence had always been cold and ruthless, but now he was defending Joy. Vanessa forced a smile. I just don't want you to be taken advantage of, Lawrence. I care about you. Lawrence stood up, signaling the conversation was over. I appreciate your concern, Vanessa, but you don't need to worry about Joy. His voice turned icy. She is Noah's mother, and she's not the enemy. Vanessa's nails dug into her palm as she stood up gracefully. She had lost this round. But the game wasn't over. Later that evening, Joy met Kelvin for coffee. It had been a few days since his confession, and even though he had accepted her decision, she wanted to make sure things weren't awkward. You sure you're okay? She asked, stirring her drink. Kelvin smiled. Joy, I meant it when I said we're still friends. Don't worry about me. Joy relaxed. I'm really glad. I don't want to lose you as a friend. They sat and talked for a while, catching up on work and life. What Joy didn't know was that someone was watching. Across the street, Lawrence sat in his car, his jaw tight as he watched them through the tinted windows. He hadn't meant to follow Joy. He had just been on his way home when he saw her laughing with Kelvin. Something ugly twisted in his chest. Jealousy. He didn't like this. He had never felt this way before. He didn't like how easily Joy smiled at Kelvin. And he didn't like how comfortable Kelvin looked around her. Without thinking, he stepped out of the car. Joy looked up just as Lawrence walked toward them. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were sharp. Kelvin noticed him too, his friendly smile fading slightly. "Lawrence," Joy said in surprise. "What are you doing here?" Lawrence ignored her question and looked directly at Kelvin. "Do you always meet with Joy like this?" Kelvin's brows raised. "Excuse me?" Lawrence's gaze didn't waver. "I'm just wondering how much time a friend spends with another man's child's mother." Joy's stomach tightened. "Lawrence," she started, but Kelvin cut in. "With all due respect, Lawrence," Kelvin said smoothly, "Joy and I have known each other long before you ever cared about her. I was there for her when no one else was." Lawrence's jaw clenched. "And I appreciate that, but things are different now." Kelvin smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Are they?" Joy quickly stepped in. "Okay, enough," she said firmly. "Lawrence, I get that you're still adjusting to everything, but Kelvin is my friend. He's been there for me through everything. I'm not just going to cut him off because it makes you uncomfortable." Lawrence's fists tightened at his sides. He wanted to argue, but he had no right to control her. He took a deep breath and exhaled sharply. "Fine." Joy crossed her arms. "Really?" Lawrence sighed. "I don't like it, but I'll respect it." Kelvin smirked slightly. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." Joy gave Lawrence a warning look, silently telling him to let it go. Finally, he nodded. Without another word, he turned and walked away. But he still didn't like it. Not one bit. Later that night, Vanessa sat in her luxury apartment, scrolling through pictures of Joy and Noah on her phone. The more she looked at them, the angrier she became. Joy had Lawrence's attention. Joy had Lawrence's child. Joy was ruining everything. Vanessa tapped her nails on the table, thinking, if planting doubts hadn't worked, she needed another approach. Something bigger. Something that would make Joy walk away forever. A slow smile spread across her lips. She had the perfect plan. And soon, Joy Daniels would regret ever stepping into Lawrence's life. Vanessa had waited long enough. Joy had been in Lawrence's life for too long, and it was time to remove her, permanently. If she couldn't plant doubts in Lawrence's mind with words, then she would give him proof. Even if she had to create the proof herself. Over the past few weeks, Joy couldn't deny it anymore. Something was happening between her and Lawrence. She had spent so much time hating him, resenting him for abandoning her, but now she saw a different side of him. The way he was trying to be a good father to Noah. The way he had defended her against Vanessa and his mom. The way he looked at her sometimes, like he wanted to say something but always held back. Joy was falling for him all over again. But before she could figure out what to do about it, everything fell apart. Vanessa's plan was already in motion. She knew exactly what to do. She had been watching Joy carefully, waiting for the perfect opportunity. And then she found it. She hired a private investigator to follow Joy's every move, taking pictures of her with Kelvin. She even went a step further, sending anonymous messages to Kelvin, pretending to be a client interested in a legal consultation. She arranged for their meeting to happen at a hotel lounge. And then, she paid a waitress to lace their drinks. Finally, she tipped off Lawrence. Everything was perfectly timed. Kelvin had no reason to doubt the message he received about a new client. Joy had no idea that walking into that hotel lounge with him would be the biggest mistake of her life. The moment they sat down at a corner booth, a waitress arrived with champagne. Kelvin frowned. "I didn't order this." The waitress smiled. "It's already been paid for by the client who booked the meeting." Joy hesitated. "That's odd." Kelvin shrugged. "Probably a fancy client. Let's just wait for a few minutes." They both took a sip. And that's when everything became blurry. Kelvin was the first to notice that something was wrong. His head spun, and his body felt heavy. Joy's fingers trembled as she held her glass. "I feel strange." Kelvin rubbed his temples, trying to shake off the drowsiness. "We need to get out of here," he muttered, barely able to focus. Joy nodded weakly, trying to stand, but her legs wobbled. Kelvin acted on instinct. He placed her arm over his shoulder, helping her walk toward the hotel's private lounge rooms, a place where people could rest between meetings. "Let's rest," Kelvin mumbled. "Shower. Let it wear off." Joy barely registered his words. Her head was spinning. They stumbled into one of the rooms, and Kelvin helped her sit on the bed. He tried to go to the bathroom to splash water on his face, but before he could, his body collapsed next to Joy. And that's how Lawrence found them. Vanessa made sure Lawrence was at the right place at the right time. When Lawrence got a call from an unknown number, he didn't answer. But when the person sent a message saying, "You might want to see what Joy is doing behind your back. She's at the Grand Crest Hotel's private room. You won't like what you see," his heart stopped. It was ridiculous, right? Joy wouldn't. But the moment he stepped into that hotel suite and saw Joy lying on the bed, with Kelvin shirtless and passed out next to her, something inside him snapped. His breath hitched, and his vision blurred with rage. It didn't matter that their clothes weren't removed. It didn't matter that they were barely conscious. The scene was enough. He didn't wait. He stormed out. The next day, Joy woke up with a pounding headache. For a few seconds, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came crashing back. She and Kelvin had been drugged. She sat up quickly, looking around. Kelvin was still asleep, but the moment she moved, he groaned. "What happened?" he muttered. Joy swallowed. "I don't know. I think someone put something in our drinks." Kelvin rubbed his face. "We need to get out of here." Joy nodded, grabbing her purse. Then she gasped. Her phone was flooded with missed calls. A cold chill ran down her spine. Something wasn't right. She grabbed her handbag and rushed out. Joy showed up at Lawrence's house later that afternoon. She had to explain. She had to make him understand. But the moment she stepped into his home office, she knew she was too late. Lawrence sat behind his desk, his face hard as stone. The moment he saw her, his eyes flashed with cold fury. "So," he said, voice sharp, "you finally decided to show your face." Joy's stomach tightened. "Lawrence," she said quickly, "it's not what you think. Something happened last night. We were drugged." He scoffed. "Drugged? That's the best excuse you could come up with?" Joy's breath caught. "It's the truth." Lawrence stood, slamming his hands on the desk. "I walked in and saw everything. You expect me to believe you were just sleeping?" Tears filled Joy's eyes. "Nothing happened. Please, you have to believe me." Lawrence's voice was cold as ice. "I believed you once, Joy, and look where that got me." Joy shook her head. "I swear on my life, Lawrence." He cut her off. "I'm taking Noah away from you, permanently." Joy froze. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You wouldn't." Lawrence stepped back. "Watch me." And then he walked away. Joy collapsed into the chair, completely shattered. Kelvin came to meet her at her house a few hours later, seeing the pain on her face. "Joy," he said softly. She looked up, her eyes red. "I can't do this anymore." Kelvin hesitated. "What do you mean?" Joy swallowed hard. "I need to leave, Kelvin. I can't stay here. This pain is too much." The following day, Joy sat in her dimly lit apartment, staring at the empty space where Noah's toys used to be. The silence was unbearable. For the past 5 years, Noah's laughter had filled every corner of her life. Now, he was gone. Taken from her. And the worst part? Lawrence believed she had betrayed him. She wiped the fresh tears from her eyes and reached for her phone, dialing the only person she could trust. Kelvin answered on the first ring. "Joy," he said gently, "how are you holding up?" She took a shaky breath. "Kelvin, be honest with me. What are my chances of winning Noah back?" There was a long pause. Then Kelvin sighed. "Joy, it's not looking good." Her heart sank. "I won't lie to you," Kelvin continued. Lawrence has power, resources, and the court already favors stability. Noah has been in his custody for weeks now. Taking him away again? It won't be easy. Joy closed her eyes, trying to stop the flood of emotions threatening to drown her. "So I have no chance?" she whispered. Kelvin hesitated. "It's slim, Joy. Very slim." That was all she needed to hear. Her grip tightened around the phone. "I need to leave, Kelvin," she said finally. "I can't stay here." Kelvin's voice tensed. "Leave? Where will you go?" She wiped her tears. "I don't know, but I need to go somewhere, anywhere but here." Kelvin exhaled sharply. "Joy, I get that you're hurting, but running away won't change anything." She swallowed. "It's not about running away. It's about surviving. I feel like I will stop breathing if I continue staying here." Kelvin was silent for a moment. Then he said, "If this is really what you want, I won't stop you." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you, Kelvin, for everything." That night, Joy packed her bags and left Leosville without telling anyone where she was going. She disappeared, leaving no trace behind. Months later, Lawrence Johnson sat in his office, his mind restless. It had been months since Joy left. Months. And even though he had Noah now, something felt wrong. He had thought he would feel satisfaction. Instead, he felt empty. Noah asked about his mother every day, and every time, it felt like a knife twisting deeper into his heart. But he had made his decision. She had betrayed him. She had lied. Or at least, that's what he thought. One morning, Daniel, his assistant, rushed into his office looking uneasy. "Sir," Daniel said hesitantly, "there's something you need to see." Lawrence frowned. "What is it?" Daniel placed a brown envelope on his desk. "I think you've been played," Daniel said quietly. Lawrence's heart stopped. Slowly, he opened the envelope, pulling out a stack of photographs and documents. His eyes scanned through them pictures of Vanessa meeting with the private investigator. Proof that Vanessa had set up Joy and Kelvin's meeting. A recording of Vanessa paying the waitress to deliver champagne to their table. His chest tightened. It felt like the ground beneath him had vanished. Vanessa had planned everything. He had suspected it, but he wasn't sure, which was why he asked for a thorough investigation. Joy had never betrayed him. His grip on the papers tightened. He had destroyed the only woman who had ever truly loved him, over a lie. And now, she was gone. A sharp breath escaped his lips as he leaned back in his chair, gripping his head. What had he done? That evening, Lawrence stormed into Vanessa's apartment. She was sipping wine when she saw him, a smug smile on her lips. "Well, well," she said sweetly, "to what do I owe this surprise visit?" Lawrence threw the envelope onto the table. Vanessa barely glanced at it before sighing dramatically. "So you finally found out?" His fists clenched. "You did all this just to split me and Joy." Vanessa laughed lightly. "Oh, please, Lawrence. You would have found a reason to leave her eventually." His rage boiled over. "I have been such a fool. And because of your stupid setup, I hurt the mother of my child." Vanessa took a sip of her wine, looking unbothered. "Relax," she said. "She's out of your life now. That's what matters, and very soon you will come back to me." Lawrence's voice dropped dangerously low. "Where is she?" Vanessa shrugged. "Who knows? She ran off like a coward." Lawrence's heart pounded. She was gone. And it was his fault. He turned toward the door, his mind racing. Vanessa's voice stopped him. "You know, my offer still stands," she said, smiling. "You and I could make this work. We were always meant to be together." Lawrence turned to face her, his expression stone cold. "I wouldn't marry you if you were the last woman on earth." Vanessa's smirk disappeared. "Excuse me?" "I want nothing to do with you," he said icily, "and as of this moment, you're dead to me." With that, he walked out, slamming the door behind him. When Lawrence got home that night, his mother, Madame Lydia, was waiting. "You look stressed," she commented, watching him pour himself a drink. Lawrence didn't answer. Madame Lydia sighed. I assume you found out the truth. His grip on the glass tightened. You knew. She didn't even flinch. I suspected, she admitted. But honestly, Lawrence, maybe it was for the best. He turned to her, shocked. What? His mother folded her hands in her lap. She's gone now. No more problems. You can finally move on and marry Vanessa. Lawrence's jaw tensed. You think this is a good thing? Madame Lydia sighed. Son, Vanessa comes from a respectable family. She fits into our world. That woman, Joy, was never meant to be part of it. Lawrence stared at her, realization hitting him hard. For his entire life he had let his mother control him. But this time, he wasn't going to listen. He placed his glass down carefully before speaking. I'm not marrying Vanessa. His mother's eyes flashed. Then who will you marry? Lawrence met her gaze. Whoever I damn well please. Madame Lydia's face darkened. You're making a mistake. Lawrence shook his head. No, Mother, I made a mistake, and now I have to fix it. And with that, he walked away. He had wasted enough time. It was time to find Joy. Lawrence sat in his office, staring blankly at the glass window overlooking Leosville. It had been 3 months since Joy disappeared. 3 months of emptiness. He had searched everywhere. Every lead turned into nothing. Every city he checked came up empty. He had used private investigators, his resources, even police contacts. Joy was gone. And the worst part? Noah missed her. Every night his son asked the same question. When is Mommy coming back? Lawrence had no answer. Because the truth was, he didn't know. But he wasn't going to stop looking. Not until he brought her home. Far from Leosville, in a small, quiet town, Joy Daniels had started over. She rented a small apartment. She found work at a local interior design company. She kept herself busy, trying not to think about the past, trying not to think about Noah. But at night, when everything was silent, the pain returned. She missed him. She missed his laugh, his hugs, his tiny hands reaching for her. And even though she tried to deny it, she missed Lawrence too. But he had made his choice, and she had made hers. After months of failed searches, Lawrence made a drastic decision. If he couldn't find Joy on his own, he would make the whole world help him. At a press conference, standing in front of cameras, he spoke directly to the people. 3 months ago, I lost the most important person in my life. Her name is Joy Daniels. She is the mother of my child, the woman I should have protected instead of hurt. The reporters murmured. He took a deep breath, his voice heavy with emotion. I was blinded by anger. I let lies destroy what we had, and because of that, she disappeared. He looked straight into the camera. If anyone knows where she is, please help me find her. I need to bring her home. Noah needs his mother. And I need her too. I need her to know how much she means to me. The conference ended. Within hours, the story went viral. People started talking. And then, 3 days later, his phone rang. An unknown number. Lawrence's hands shook as he answered. Hello? A soft voice spoke. I know where she is. His breath caught. Where? The voice gave him an address. A small town. A location. His heart raced. Are you sure? He asked, voice tight. Yes, the voice confirmed. But whether she wants to see you, that's up to her. The call ended. Lawrence didn't waste another second. He was going to find Joy. The next morning, Joy walked into a small cafe, ordering her usual cup of coffee. She didn't notice the man sitting in the corner. Not until she heard his voice. Joy. Her body froze. Slowly she turned around. And there he was. Lawrence. He looked different. Tired. Worn out. But most of all, desperate. Joy's heart pounded. I finally found you, he whispered. She gripped the counter behind her. How did you? I looked everywhere, he interrupted. And when I couldn't find you, I begged the world to help me. She swallowed. So you Made it public. He nodded. I had no choice. Silence stretched between them. Then he took a step forward. I was wrong, Joy. His voice cracked. About everything. Joy closed her eyes. You hurt me, Lawrence. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. And I will never forgive myself for it. She looked away. Why are you here? He took another step closer. Because I love you. Time seemed to stop for a moment. I don't just want to be the man who wins court battles, he continued. I don't want to be the man who thinks money can solve everything. His voice broke. I just want to be Noah's father. Joy felt tears in her eyes. And I just want to be yours. A sob escaped her lips. But I don't know if I can trust you again, she whispered. He nodded slowly. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. But Joy, please, come back home. Joy looked away. She wasn't sure what to say. But deep inside, she already knew. She couldn't live without Noah. She had tried, and it had broken her. With a deep breath, she finally spoke. I want to see my son. A small, hopeful smile appeared on Lawrence's lips. Then come home with me. That evening before leaving, Joy met with Kelvin, who had coincidentally come to the town for a case. He had always been her rock, and she owed him the truth. When he saw her, he already knew. You're leaving, he said softly. Joy nodded. I need to see Noah. Kelvin gave a small, sad smile. I figured this day would come, he admitted. You never stopped loving Lawrence, did you? Joy looked down. I don't know, she said honestly, but I know I can't live without my son. Kelvin sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Then go, he said, his voice steady. Be with your son. Joy's eyes filled with tears. Kelvin, He raised a hand. No need to explain, Joy. I knew from the start that your heart was never mine. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I'll miss you, she whispered. Kelvin smiled, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. I'll always be your friend, Joy. Thank you, she whispered. And with that, she left, heading back to the life she had tried to leave behind. The moment Joy stepped into Lawrence's mansion, her heart raced. It had been too long. Too many nights spent missing Noah, longing to hold him again. And then a small voice rang through the hallway. Mommy! Joy barely had time to react before Noah came running toward her, his little arms outstretched. Tears blurred her vision as she bent down, pulling him into the tightest hug of her life. My baby, she sobbed, pressing kisses all over his face. I missed you so much. Noah clung to her, his tiny hands gripping her dress as if afraid she would leave again. Don't go, Mommy, he whispered. Joy shook her head. I'm never leaving you again, she promised, and she meant it. From the top of the grand staircase, Madame Lydia watched silently. For months, she had believed that Joy was a mistake, that her son needed someone of higher status, that this woman had no place in their world. But as she watched Lawrence kneel beside Joy and Noah, wrapping his arms around both of them, she saw something she had never seen before. Her son was happy. Truly, deeply happy. And her grandson needed his mother. She let out a long breath, feeling defeated yet at peace. Maybe she had been wrong. Later that evening, as Joy stood in the garden taking in the fresh air, Madame Lydia approached her. Joy tensed, expecting another cold remark, but instead the older woman sighed. I misjudged you, Joy. Joy turned, eyes wide. Madame Lydia continued, her tone softer than ever. I've watched my son search for you for months. I've seen the way my grandson lights up around you. She took a deep breath. And I see now that you belong here. Joy's heart skipped. Did Madame Lydia just accept her? I don't know what to say, Joy whispered. Madame Lydia gave a small smile. Just promise me one thing, she said. Joy nodded. Anything. Take care of my son and grandson. Tears welled in Joy's eyes as she nodded.
I will. For the first time, they were no longer enemies. They were family. Lawrence didn't rush things. He knew he had hurt Joy deeply.
And winning her back would take time. So he did the small things. He made sure she was comfortable in the house. He brought her breakfast every morning. He spent time laughing with Noah while she watched. And most of all, he never pressured her. One evening, as they stood outside watching Noah play, Joy finally spoke. "You've changed," she murmured. Lawrence turned to her, his expression serious. "You changed me," he admitted. "Losing you taught me what really matters." Joy swallowed. Could she trust him again? Her heart already knew the answer. That night, Joy sat in her room, staring at the ceiling.
She had spent so long running from the past. But now, she had a chance to build a future. With Noah. With Lawrence. With love. The next morning, she walked up to Lawrence, took his hands and whispered, "I forgive you." His breath hitched. "Does that mean?" She smiled softly. "It means I'm willing to try again." Lawrence closed his eyes in relief. It was more than he had hoped for, more than he deserved, and he was never going to let her go again. Days later, Lawrence prepared something special. A private dinner under the stars, right in the mansion's garden. Joy had no idea what was coming. She gasped when she saw the candles, the fairy lights, the soft music playing in the background. "Noah helped me set this up," Lawrence said with a small smile. Joy laughed, feeling her heart melt. They sat down, ate, and talked about everything and nothing. Then as the night deepened, Lawrence stood. Joy blinked. "What are you?" And then, he got down on one knee. Her breath caught. "Joy Daniels," he said, his voice full of emotion. "I never thought love was for me. I never thought I could feel this way. But you proved me wrong." Tears filled Joy's eyes. "You are my heart, my home, my family, and I never want to lose you again." He opened a small velvet box. Inside was a stunning diamond ring. "Marry me, Joy," he whispered. "Be my wife. Be my forever." Joy's lips trembled. For a moment she couldn't speak. Then, with a bright smile and tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "Yes." Lawrence slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into the most passionate kiss of their lives. They kissed under the stars, wrapped in love, wrapped in forever. Across the ocean, Vanessa Williams sat in her luxury suite, watching the news. The headline read, "Billionaire Lawrence Johnson proposes to Joy Daniels, a love story that overcame all odds." Her grip on her champagne glass tightened. She had lost, and there was no coming back from this. With a bitter smile, she placed the glass down and stood. She had other places to be, and other men to manipulate. With one last glance at the screen, she turned and walked away. She was done with Lawrence Johnson. For good. Months later, on a warm Sunday afternoon, Lawrence, Joy, and Noah sat under a large tree in the park. A real family. No money, no court battles, no pride. Just love. Lawrence watched as Joy and Noah played, his heart swelling with pure happiness. At last, he had everything he had ever wanted, and this time, he was never letting it go. Joy looked back at him, smiling. And as he pulled her close, whispering, "I love you," into her ear, she knew she had finally found her home. Final message of the story: love is more powerful than money, pride, or mistakes. When two people are meant to be, fate will always bring them back together. Thank you for watching this beautiful journey.